In any early childhood classroom, there's always this soundscape. But what if the most important sound for learning isn't actually silence, but the lively, sometimes chaotic, hum of children's voices? Today, we're going to dive into how everyday talk can be transformed into one of the most powerful tools we have for building a child's brain and, really, their entire future in literacy. Catch a bubble? Are you kidding me? This question, which was actually voiced by a child in an appeal to educators, it just gets right to the heart of our topic today. You know those phrases we use to manage a classroom, like zip it or catch a bubble? To a child, they can feel like a total dismissal. It sends a message that their voice, their ideas, their words, they just don't have a place here. So what's the real cost of all that quiet? It's so much more than just managing noise levels. Every single time we ask a child to be quiet, we might be missing a really crucial opportunity. An opportunity for them to practice using language, to organize their thoughts, and to build the very foundation they're going to need for reading, for writing, and for thinking critically about the world. Okay, so let's start by looking at this common goal, the quiet, orderly classroom. We're going to explore why this instinct, which is totally well-intentioned, can sometimes work against a child's most fundamental needs for development. And listen, the stakes here are incredibly high. The kids themselves tell us that if they're constantly told to be quiet, they never really learn how to use their words. And this isn't some small setback. It's a direct path to falling further and further behind in school. Language is the bedrock of literacy, and without a strong foundation, everything that comes after is just that much harder. So if quiet is part of the problem, what's the solution? Well, the answer lies in understanding the incredible power of what researchers call oral language. This is the true engine of learning, and it makes a powerful case for way more conversation, not less. So, what exactly is oral language? It's so much more than just talking. It's the entire system we use to share what we know, what we think, and what we feel. You can almost think of it as the brain's operating system. In fact, the National Early Literacy Panel calls it the engine of learning and thinking, which is just a perfect way to describe how critical it is for all future success in school. And this powerful engine is actually made up of a few key parts. Oral language isn't just one thing. It's a combination of at least 5 crucial skills. You've got phonological skills. That's the ability to hear all the distinct sounds in language. Then there's syntax, which is basically grammar and how we build sentences. We also have morphological skills, which is about understanding how parts of words create meaning. Then pragmatics, the social rules of a good conversation, and finally, of course, vocabulary. All 5 of these are really strong predictors of how well a child will be able to read later on. Okay, so understanding the science is one thing, but putting it into practice in a busy classroom, that's another story. So this next section is all about the how. We're going to unpack a simple but really effective conversational toolkit that any educator can start using right away. Research shows that the most powerful language-building conversations really rest on 3 pillars. First, we, the adults, have to model rich language. Second, we have to ask open-ended questions. And third, we provide meaningful feedback that keeps that conversation going. Think of these as the 3 essential ingredients for turning any interaction into a real learning opportunity. Let's look at that first step, modeling. This just means immersing children in a world of words. You can do this with self-talk, where you narrate what you're doing. Something like, I'm mixing the blue and yellow paint to make green. Or you can use parallel talk and describe what they're doing. The key is to use sophisticated words and complex sentences, especially when you're reading books, because that's where kids hear language they might not ever encounter in just everyday chatter. All right, the second step is a game changer. It's all about asking the right kind of questions. So often, we fall back on closed questions. They have one right answer, and they just stop a conversation cold. What color is this? Blue. End of story. The real power is in the open-ended questions. These are the ones that start with, why do you think? Or tell me about. They don't have a single correct answer. They invite a story, an opinion, a theory. They invite thinking. And that final step is all about responding with meaningful feedback. The goal here is not just to say, good job. It's to create a real back and forth exchange, a servant return. Researchers suggest that we should be aiming for 5 or more conversational turns. This is where the deep learning happens as we challenge and expand on whatever a child says. This Strive for 5 model is the perfect example. Just look at how it unfolds. The teacher starts with an open-ended question. The child responds. But the teacher doesn't stop there. In step 3, she challenges the child to think a little deeper. The child responds again, but with a more complex idea. And then finally, the teacher expands on that idea, modeling even richer vocabulary. The point is, this exchange builds momentum, and it pushes the child's thinking further with every single term. So these individual techniques are powerful, for sure, but they become even more powerful when they're part of an entire classroom culture that really values conversation. So now let's look at how to turn your classroom into a language lab. Creating this kind of environment really just involves a lot of small, intentional choices. It means physically getting down on a child's level to show you're an engaged partner. It means making eye contact and truly focusing when they speak. It also means setting up the environment itself, providing interesting materials, new experiences, and opportunities for play that give kids rich topics to actually talk about. If you need one guiding principle to completely transform your classroom, let it be this one. The National Institute for Literacy suggests a simple but really powerful goal. The child should be talking at least as much as the adult, if not more. Just that one idea can shift our entire perspective on who should be leading the conversation. All right, we've covered the problem with too much quiet, the science of oral language, and the practical tools to help it flourish. Now let's pull all of this together into a powerful new vision for the role of the educator. Ultimately, this is the big takeaway. An educator's primary role isn't to be a dispenser of information or a manager of behavior. It's to be an intentional conversational partner. Every single interaction, from snack time to playing with blocks, is a designed opportunity to build a child's vocabulary, their confidence, and the very architecture of their developing brain. So we'll end with this question for you. This isn't about mastering everything all at once. It's about taking one small, intentional step forward. Maybe it's a promise to ask more why questions. Maybe it's a promise to narrate what you're doing during cleanup. Or maybe it's a promise to never ask a child to just catch a bubble again. What one promise will you make to give a child's voice the power it deserves?